Hey, this is video 2 of the YouTube and social television lectures. I just want to quickly go over the remainder of what I want to talk about really in terms of YouTube and Google. And as you'll note, there are things in this which you've encountered previously as well. So I'm reiterating some points, so this should be quite quick. I mean, one of the fundamental questions that we need to ask, and this is a question I posed last year, I guess, is do we watch anything anymore? Do we watch? Do we sit silently and consume and watch? And certainly when we're consuming YouTube or TikTok or something like that, are we watching? We are checking, surfing, posting, commenting, messaging, making, scrolling. We are what's beyond an active audience that Hall envisaged. We are a hyperactive audience, not an active audience, because we are combining our ability to watch with many other abilities at the same time. This is an instance of William Merrin's media. A hyperactive audience is always consuming media in a fashion that tailors it to their own ends. In Williams Media Studies 2.0, mass audiences, including both simple and active audiences, are given a way to diffuse audiences. We may well be all using the same platforms, for example, like YouTube or TikTok, but our content is highly tailored on those platforms thanks to the algorithmic governance of those platforms towards us. What the platform knows about us, it tailors towards us. And the technology we use plays a critical role in this transformation, of course, from media to media, where the content that we are consuming, even though we might be using the same platforms, is radically different to one another's. So, if you like, the experience of social television is very, very different to classical instances of television watching. Social television is guided by network principles, though. Now, again, time for me to kick Henry Jenkins, right? According to Jenkins in 2009, YouTube pushes up content which receives support from other users. It's a very, very optimistic view of what actually gets watched on YouTube. That's only part of the truth. It ignores the fact that large corporate media companies' content is so popular because they have resource advantages in attaining recognition and attention over everyday users. And in no small part, this is down to the amounts of money that large companies pay Google in order to have priority in terms of how their product is presented to us on a platform and how quickly and instantly and well presented that content can be compared to everything else. And indeed we also see this phenomenon on TikTok as well, where if you were to go onto TikTok, the first thing you see is an advert. You may see another advert a few scrolls down, etc., etc. It's just a similar sort of system to the one that is used on Instagram, but again it negates the idea that these platforms just push up content which receives support from other users. Actually, they push up content which they get supported, which supports them as a corporation to make money. Better way of putting it. So, in terms of social TV, transnational media corporations and organizations, the organized exploiters of surplus value generating labor, control YouTube's political attention economy, according to Fuchs. And we can extend this to TikTok too. So entertainment and music are very popular on YouTube. They're not just the YouTuber. In fact, YouTubers are very marginal in this, but the companies that make the big bucks are on YouTube are companies that are already making big bucks previously, although the business model has eroded the profitability of some types of traditional media, of course. For Jenkins, he argued that YouTube is a site for the production and distribution of grassroots media, and that on YouTube, participation occurs at 3 distinct levels. Those are production, selection, and distribution. I mean, it's old now, Jenkins' work, right? This is as I'm saying, this is 13 years. It'll be 14 years as you're looking at it. This is still held with some regard by scholars out there, and you still see these ideas pop up, especially in university courses. What I want to reiterate here is just how it's harsh to say naive, but how there is a misunderstanding here of the actual business model that drives a platform like YouTube. It's a site for the production and distribution of grassroots media. It's actually a site for the conglomeration and exploitation of grassroots media in different ways. What we have here is a series, again, of evil companies. YouTube is owned by Google, and the revenues that are accumulated with online advertising on YouTube do not belong to the immediate content producer. Just like me, for example, when I put this up on YouTube, I get nothing for it, but to the shareholders of Google. And actually, I shouldn't be getting anything for this, but to be fair, but millions and millions of other people like me get nothing for their content. Jenkins neglects ownership as a central aspect of participation, and the most popular YouTube videos stem from companies like Universal, Sony, and Walt Disney, and they are also not really in the business of sharing profits. Jenkins is therefore wrong. Again, politics on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are possible, but there are minority issues. The predominant focus of users is on non-political entertainment on YouTube. In terms of how to put this nicely, YouTube can challenge the hegemonic order. It just doesn't. It is used instead to reinforce the hegemonic order. Web 2.0 corporations and the usage they enable are not expressions of participatory democracy, because as long as corporations dominate this space, it will not be participatory in the way that Jenkins thinks it is. It's kind of depressing if you're a nascent YouTuber, or you're interested in getting involved in YouTube, or you just want to make content, or you already have content. I'm not criticizing people that do that, but it's important to note that the optimistic view of that is probably incorrect. In terms of screen practices, YouTube as a platform has meant that existing content providers like BBC here, for example, had to adjust to that platform. Radio 1 and YouTube being an example. Radio 1 is no longer a radio station purely because it produces huge amounts of content for YouTube, and that's a major way in which its content is actually consumed. YouTube is now a distribution platform for not just Radio 1, but for loads of different organizations that weren't even in the screen space previously. You know, if you look at newspapers, they all have channels on YouTube where they pump out content, for example. Radio stations all do this. So it's interesting that it's now a critical distribution platform for all media businesses, and therefore, again, it is YouTube has a transformative effect in terms of making people produce screen content, but it is the big operators that we see dominating this space. The DIY aesthetic of YouTube is a myth. There is a little amateur about genuinely popular material on YouTube, even that of YouTubers and influencers on YouTube. There is very little that is actually amateur about that content. It is another distribution platform for giant media corporations, and it's owned by an even bigger one. So broadcast yourself, well, you can, but don't expect to get paid for it. So in terms of concluding this, you know, what actually can we say about YouTube as social media? YouTube as a form of social media is contentious. The ability to produce as part of participatory culture sits in tension with the corporate ownership of the platform, and the use of YouTube is most pronounced on us as an audience and of limited producers of user-generated content. And on that note, tees me up very nicely for video 3, which is an essential one really for everyone who's doing this module on streaming culture, because that tees us there as to, okay, so if YouTube as a site of production is not significant for us small people, then what the hell are we supposed to talk about when it comes to social media? And maybe the stream, well, not maybe, definitely what comes in video 3 is going to take this and expand it into ways that we can really use this material to enrich your projects and your lives, you know, your entire life. Okay, video 3 coming up shortly.